Hello, I'm John Baxter. I'm a lecturer at the University of Bradford. This presentation will give you an overview of the portfolio that the students are expected to complete when they come out on placement with the ambulance service. You can skip through different sections and revisit sections by clicking on the links below. At the end of the presentation are contact details for any of the staff that have been involved in the delivery of the course. We've chosen to use an e-portfolio called Pebblepad. The students have all had introductory lectures to using Pebblepad and are quite familiar with it because they used it in a previous module. So this is really so you can understand exactly what the students will be doing. The benefits of using an e-portfolio are that the student shouldn't be able to lose it, as everything should be backed up on a cloud, and they'll be able to use it both throughout their degree and also when they qualify to fulfil HCPC requirements. The responsibility of completing the portfolio lies with the student. However, there are certain aspects of Pebblepad that may be of particular interest to you as practice educators, and the remainder of this presentation consists of a series of screenshots detailing these areas. This is a practice assessment document that the students will be using when they're out on placement with the ambulance service. I'm just going to give a quick overview of what's in this document now. The document can be accessed by clicking on the contents bar at the side up here, and this gives you an overview of everything that's in it. Alternatively, you can scroll across the top to see all the tabs as well. So the tabs across the top start with an introduction, and in this section the students have to fill in an academic front sheet, and in this they have to sign to say that they maintain patient confidentiality and that they've avoided any plagiarism issues. There's also some guidance about this document in here and then information for the different modules the students study. For this year so far we've studied 2 modules regarding placements: Professional Practice 1, which you can see here, and on this placement they went out for a week with health visiting teams, they went for a week with learning disability teams, they spent a week on PTS, and they also spent some time in EOC and 111. That was in the first semester of this year, and in the second semester, where they are now, they will be coming out to spend time on the ambulances or on RRVs with their mentors and practice educators. One of the things we've been asked quite regularly is which skills students can perform when they're out on the road with practice educators. The students should be at the level of ECA by the end of the first year, and by the end of the second year EMT2, and then at the end of the final year of course they should be at the level of paramedics. Because of that, we've designed a skills log that the students can fill in. So when they've covered something at university or at Manor Mill, they can tick off on their skills log that they've covered this item or this particular skill. This is in the skills and mandatory training section, you can see up here, and then the student ticks off the things they've done. The students should therefore tick off competencies and skills when they've done them at Manor Mill. So for example, if we look down, we can see it's split down into airway management, breathing, circulation, dysfunction, and then the equipment they should be using, different drug therapies, medical gases, moving and handling equipment, trauma equipment, and the different kinds of assessment that they're familiar with. And these are always written to the level that we're expecting them to be at the end of the academic year, which is June, July of each year. When the student shows you their skills passport, if they've ticked off oxygen and Entonox, that means they've covered it at Manor Mill, and it means that when they're working with you, they can set up oxygen delivery or administer Entonox as long as it's under your supervision. The students can't do it by themselves, in effect. Everything they do under your registration and under your supervision. Students have several competencies that they have to fill in whilst they're out on placement. This form is the form they will use to fill in most of these competencies. The form is available on the phone in an app called Pebblepad, or it's available on the computer. Now, if, for example, we're going to fill in an airway competency, we'll label the competency airway, select the date that they do the competency, and then they have to write a description about what they did. So this is managing an airway. I'm using a stepwise approach, head tilt, chin lift, and then an OP airway to ventilate the patient properly, and all the time whilst doing this under the direct supervision of the practice educator. Once the student's written this up and you've talked about it, you need to decide what level the student's at with the competency. So let's say for this level you decide that the student can do this with minimal supervision. You will click this box here, write your name in here, or the student will write your name in. So we just put paramedic in there, and then a box will open up to sign. So you can scroll down and either sign it with the mouse if you're on a laptop, or you can sign it with your finger if you're using the mobile phone. We confirm the signature, and then this gets saved into Pebblepad. Once the student's gone through the competency form, they will then need to attach this into their portfolio. The portfolio lists all the competencies that they need to fill out during their placement. This can be accessed here. So whilst it loads, we'll scroll down to the airway competence, which is number 16. So the airway competence here says that the student is able to demonstrate the knowledge and skills in order to manage a patent airway. And the level required for this is minimal supervision. So what we need to do there is add an asset. So we can add the asset, which is the airway log that the student completed. And this is all things students do. I'm just running through this so that you understand the process they will go through. So they click on the asset and they add it in here. Now we know that we pass them off at minimal supervision, which is the level they require during this part of the course. So we can say from that this item is now fully evidenced, and that signs off their airway competency. The direct supervision really is the best way to sign these competencies off, and the more they get signed off this way, the easier time they will have when they finish the placement, because they won't have as much catching up to do when they get back to man and mill. To help you decide what level a student's working at, within the Practice Placement Education tab, there's some guidance notes. Can be accessed here by clicking on Guidance to give examples of the level a student will be working at. So for example, a dependent student may lack knowledge and not be very well organised, whereas a student who requires to be assisted can identify reasons for actions, but will require you to frequently tell them what to do and direct them to do an observation, or to talk to a patient, or to move a patient, for example. Moving forward, a student who requires minimal supervision will usually have a good level of knowledge and will be able to get on with things without the need for assistance, but perhaps you want to keep your eye on them still. The final level, for proficient students, will be a confident, safe student who can prioritise actions, who can get on with things, and you can trust them that it will be right. But even though you're signing these students off as proficient, we have to remember they are still students, and everything they do will be done under your supervision and guidance. Before the students have come out on placement, we spend some time with them asking them to develop some SMART action plans. And these plans are designed so that when the student starts the first shift with you, they can show you the action plans they've done and what they want to achieve in the first week or two on placement. We thought that was important so that you both had a good idea of what you needed to do within the first week, because it's quite an intensive period, 6 weeks, and the student's got quite a lot to achieve. And also this is the first experience on A&E, so they're going to be quite excited coming out as well. So in this section there's a little bit of guidance about SMART action plans. and then the student should have attached some of their plans underneath. Now I've put one in here just as an example of the sort of thing the student might bring to you. And in this one it shows that within the first 2 weeks they'd like to be proficient in taking a full range of baseline observations. The students have all practiced this at the university at Manor Mill. They've had some assessments on it, and this is about putting this into practice out on the road. During the 6-week placement, the student should have at least one meeting with a lecturer from Bradford University or one of the skills tutors or clinical tutors from Manor Mill. During this meeting, we would hope you could join us as well, because we really want to hear your feedback about how the students are doing. And at that time we want to find out how their action plans are progressing, how the competencies are progressing, and see how they're progressing with the academic material they've been asked to produce during the 6 weeks as well. These meetings will be recorded in the Meetings and Action Plans tab. But what happens if the student's not progressing and not doing very well whilst on placement? Well, within this tab there's a link to Development Action Plans. And this is for students who need some more support, really. And if you do have a student who's in this situation, please make sure you contact the YAS placement team, and then in collaboration with YAS and the university, we'll come out to see the placement and the student, see what's going on, and try to put something in place to support you as a mentor and the student to achieve their learning objectives. And it's difficult to say exactly what this could be. It would depend on the situation. And if you look down these development action plans, you can see it could be a problem with the student's knowledge or the practical ability or the personal and professional behaviour. And we then try to put something in place so that the student has the support to improve in these areas. During the 6-week placement block, the student needs to achieve 225 hours of A&E work. Now it's up to you whether you include meal breaks during this. If you work with a student, you have meaningful discussion during this time, I think it's fair enough to count it. But at the end of the 6 weeks, the student needs to have achieved these 225 hours. These are recorded in 2 places. Firstly, in the shift logs section, which you can see here. And in this section, the student can also record the events of each shift. And that can just work as an aid memoir for when they come to claim competences, or when they come to write their reflections following the placement. Also have to fill in the timesheet in each day. And this shows the date, the hours that they work, the location, and the practice educator that they're with for that shift. The placement, the student should be ready for final sign-off. This is the last tab in the practice assessment document. If we load it up here, you can see the student will need to sign off that they've completed all these things that need to be added to the practice assessment document. Once they've done that, the student will sign the document off, and then we would like the practice educator to also sign the document off. So the student will click on the signature, and then if you sign your name, so put the paramedic name in there, and then the student, you should confirm the signature, and it timestamps the signature then, that it's all signed off. The student will then return the document to us, and the lecturers will check the document and sign it off as well. If the student hasn't completed their portfolio by the time the 6 weeks ends, it may be the case that you're unable to make the final sign-off. If this happens, the student should bring the portfolio back to university and to Manor Mill. We'll put things in place for them to complete competencies, and they may have to bring it back to station for you to complete at a further date. I'd like to thank you for volunteering to mentor our students, and I hope you have a good time and you find it quite a rewarding experience. We've attached the Practice Placement Educator's Handbook for you to look through. That's got lots of information about what's expected when the students come out on the road. And also you can see on the right hand side of the screen contact details for everyone who's been involved in developing and delivering this course. So once again, thanks very much.